feel happy. I decided that I wanted to be a pilot right after high school, or like my senior year of high school, really. Prior to that, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I love to travel. My dad has always worked for an airline. He's an A&P, so an airframe and power plant mechanic. I've always been around aviation, and I've always been very interested in it, but becoming a pilot never seemed like an achievable thing for me. I always loved the movie Up in the Air, I think it's called, with Gwyneth Paltrow, where she's a flight attendant. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But as it turns out, I would never. Flight attendants are fantastic people, but I don't think that that's for me. I'm not a culinary expert. My name is Taylor Anderson, and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Cirrus Aircraft. This means that I cover Cirrus aircraft sales for Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. It also makes me a go-to person for any Cirrus-related questions. I'm kind of the brand representative for the area. It's a huge responsibility, and it's a ton of fun to be able to do. I think everybody goes through a phase where flying is scary. A lot of it depends on your level of training. So things that you found scary early on in your training, you don't find scary anymore, and they're very normal. So as you progress as an aviator, that level of fear, it's always with you, and it drives us to train better, to ensure that we're not pushing ourselves to an uncomfortable position, and it kind of keeps us in check. Flying Cirrus aircraft especially, I always have the peace of mind knowing that I have an airframe parachute. So if things do go wrong, we have an entire parachute for the airplane. So it's just a T-handle right over my right shoulder that I can pull, and the airplane will safely glide to the ground, which is incredibly reassuring. And there's been scenarios where that has absolutely crossed my mind. I guess the most recent story for me, I was flying last February out of Kansas City. And so we had gotten into Kansas City. I was right during, there's really moderate, heavy precipitation. And we had gone in, and it was pouring rain on the ground. It was really bad. There was reports for icing at higher altitudes, but we knew on the way back that I would have to climb up to get a tailwind so that I could get going faster and kind of stay out of these icing conditions, which is where the entire airplane becomes enveloped in ice. Leaving Kansas City that day, I was climbing up to 25,000 feet and going through all of that heavy precipitation. I was accumulating ice very, very quickly. It looked like somebody was shoveling like piles of slush onto the wing. It was a lot of ice. I would definitely call it severe icing conditions. Luckily, we have an anti-ice system on the Cirrus, so I was able to utilize that, and it kept the ice from refreezing or accumulating to a point where the airplane couldn't climb anymore. And I was able to get on top of it, but there was definitely moments going through this system. It was from the ground all the way up to 25,000 feet. I didn't get on top of it until 25,000 feet, so it was definitely a little scary. But knowing that I had a parachute, it definitely it helps, because at that point you get to a point where you can't go back down through it because it's too severe, and so at some point your only choice is up. Or for the ice to bring you down. But I'm here. I'm much more careful about icing now. Flying in the winter definitely takes extra precautions, primarily being okay with having an engine failure and having to land off airport. So being in Minnesota primarily, and the surrounding states, North Dakota is brutal in the wintertime. Knowing that you're going to be stuck on the ground until somebody rescues you definitely puts into perspective the conditions that you should be flying in. Throughout your training, we all set personal minimums, so what we're comfortable having to live with if something goes wrong. Being comfortable with the weather conditions and being confident in what you're flying. So those considerations always, any time of the year, but especially in the wintertime up north, we take into consideration. So I pack a survival bag. I always have a survival gear bag in my airplane in the wintertime. So I have an extra pair of real snow boots because I don't usually fly in snow boots. I have mittens, hand warmers, reflective gear, sleeping bags, all of those things. I think personality-wise, I like to have fun. And so I think aviation seems very unapproachable to a lot of people. And so I like to be able to bring it to more people and being able to show that it's fun and it's easy and it's something that you can do. And so I think my personality shows that. If I can do it, you can do it. My biggest accomplishment would probably be my current position with Cirrus Aircraft. Being able to be the brand representative for Cirrus is huge. We've been the best-selling general aviation aircraft for over 20 years now. We delivered our first airplane in 1999, and we have not slowed down since. So it's really cool to be able to be where I'm from in Minnesota and be able to represent such an amazing brand. So I feel incredibly proud of that accomplishment. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's very intimidating to have, it's all male owners. I've never sold an airplane to a female pilot, although I am currently trying to. It's always a little bit intimidating. I think more so than being a female, a lot of our customers are really awesome. They are mostly under the age of 60, between like 30 and 60 years old. So we have a really unique pilot demographic, I guess you could call it, where they're all, a lot of them are first of their family for like entrepreneurs, or they're new into what they're doing. So they appreciate the grind, they appreciate the hard work that gets put into it. And there's no doubt that being a female in aviation is very different than the guys have it. There's only 6% of female pilots, or I'm sorry, 6% of professional pilots are female. So it's very, very small community of us that made aviation our profession. There's a lot more private pilots out there, but a lot of people, a lot of women that have given up flying. I'm sure largely in part because of how male-dominated the field can be. It can be really difficult. The friendships that you make are definitely worth it, but it doesn't come without obstacles. I've been told on a lot of occasions very rude things, both in regards to my age and my gender. So, being able to just kind of wash that stuff away is really important. Kind of just have to have a hard exterior, and just know that a lot of the time things are said not because they intend to be rude or I guess crass with you, but just because it's not something that they're necessarily used to, which still isn't fair. We shouldn't have to deal with it, but it still happens. I've been told I previously wanted to go to the airlines, be a commercial pilot, and I was told that I would get hired faster than any guy in my position because I'm a girl. And they added to that I was an attractive female. So that's always really fun to know that it's not your skill or, how hard you've worked for it. It's because I'm a girl. So it's kind of crappy.
Are you okay?
Yeah. I don't know why I'm crying. A tip for new pilots would be not to give up. It can be incredibly discouraging learning to fly. It's a totally different world in aviation. So the terminology is different. The skill set is like nothing you've tried before. So you're not going to be good at it, and you have to be okay with that and just be willing to learn still. It's also incredibly important to find a flight instructor that you like, somebody that you get along with. If you live in a small community or rural community, that can be kind of difficult, but it's worth traveling a longer distance to find somebody that you really connect with. Because if you have a poor flight instructor or somebody that you don't enjoy being around, it's going to be a miserable time trying to get a pilot certificate. So make sure that you like them, make sure that you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Flying is not a cheap hobby for people. Most people spend like 10 to 12 grand on a private pilot certificate, so it's not cheap to learn to fly. So make sure that you enjoy it. It's a process. You're not going to be good at it, but you'll come out the other side and be really, really proud of the accomplishment. So go try it. Try flying. So most flight schools offer an introductory flight lesson. So usually it's like 30 minutes to an hour, and you can just go out and give it a try. I will tell you that the flight instructor probably is going to make it seem a lot easier than it is, but that's kind of the purpose of it, is to get you hooked and make sure that you enjoy it, make it fun for you. Flying is fun, and it is easy, and it is achievable. So I think go out and try it, give it a whirl, as long as you don't puke. And even if you do, I actually had a guy puke on me when I was flight instructing. Yeah, so we were like, it was, I don't know, maybe our second or third flight, and he had sushi before he came and flew. And so we're out flying, and I knew that he got motion sickness, so we were like really gentle, like not doing anything crazy. And we made a turn, and we turned towards the sun, and so the sun was beating in the airplane, and I think the heat of that, like he just lost it and puked like all over the left side of my body. It was really gross. I went home after that. I like landed the airplane and got out, and I was like, I'm done. Being a pilot means that we're part of a really small community of people, and we have this ability to adventure in a whole different way. So having a pilot certificate, whether it's a private pilot certificate or a commercial pilot certificate, you have this ability that not many people have, and like this kind of uniqueness to you that really opens up a whole other world. It's a cool community to be a part of.